Howdy, neighbors. Happy Monday. I'll give everybody a minute to hop on. You can see we've got a few things on the agenda for tomorrow, including our first vote on the budget. And I won't be going in detail over the budget, but there is something that I will be making a note of. So just stay tuned for that if you want to hear about that. The first order of business, and thank you all for joining me early, since I have a commitment later this evening that made it so I couldn't do this at my normal time. But all right, we'll go ahead and get started. The first item is a request to rezone 309 Morrison Springs Road from R1 residential to C2 commercial. This is, in case you aren't familiar with where that parcel is located, this is where on Morrison Springs Road where the Hardee's is. It's that parcel next to the Hardee's that's undeveloped. From my understanding, it's the folks that own the liquor store next to Northside Neighborhood House are looking to get this rezoned so that they can build their own structure at that location. And it has been recommended by our planners because it is adjacent to the C2 zone there at the Hardee's. So if you have any thoughts or questions about that, definitely come to the regular meeting tomorrow, because we will be having a public hearing on the rezoning. And you'll be able to give comments, ask questions, express thoughts, concerns, etc. So that's the first item. Item number 2 is presentation of budget workshop certificates. So we had about 4 people who attended all 4 of our budget workshops, and they will be getting presented with budget workshop certificates tomorrow, just a fun little way to recognize their engagement and, you know, hopefully get more folks to show up for those workshops, because that's where all of the kind of the discussion happens. That's where you hear a lot of questions from us, you know, to the department heads, to the city manager, and city hall staff. So anyway, that's that. And then item number 3 is the first reading of the proposed budget, and I'll go ahead and touch on that. You'll see it in the budget document that's actually in the work session packet that's uploaded to the website at redbanktn.gov. But there's also a separate ordinance, which is what we actually vote on. And I just wanted to bring your attention to something, and I'm gonna talk about it in the meeting tomorrow. You'll see, it's kind of hard. I want to see if I can, let me circle it. So you see this circled number right here. I don't know how to do this backwards camera. Okay. $940,421, and that's estimated actual for fiscal year 24. So that is the current year, fiscal year that we're in. And what that is showing is that in the same year that we did a tax increase, we are projected to use almost $1 million of general fund balance. That is wrong. Our contracted financial advisor incorrectly input that number and accounted for expenditures for TDOT projects that haven't actually occurred yet. So that will be corrected. We will talk about it tomorrow in the meeting. There will be an adjustment to this ordinance for our second reading. I will ask in the meeting if I can make an amendment to make sure that a more more accurate projected number is reflected. Staff is working on getting that number. It's probably going to be closer to 100,000. And that is because there are TDOT projects that we have in queue that we have done some work on, some pre-construction work, preliminary studies have been done. So what happens is when we've been approved for a project like the Lullwater Bridge project, what happens is it's 80% covered by TDOT, 20% covered by us, by the city. But that 80% we pay up front, and then TDOT reimburses us. So even if we had completed all three of these projects that are in queue right now and had spent this $940,000, we would be getting reimbursed 80% of that. And then the other 20% that is our portion of the match doesn't come from the general fund. It comes from our state street aid fund. And that's the way we've done it for years and years and years and years, long before I was ever elected. So I just wanted to clear that up because that number was very concerning to me, and I know will be for anybody else who has looked closely at the budget. But we will be talking about that tomorrow and getting that corrected. We also will be finishing our contract early with the current finance contractor, and contracting with a new financial advisor until we are able to hire a new full-time CFO. So that's the big thing that I wanted to make note of in the budget. Everything else you guys can see, I mean, all of the other things are here in the budget packet that's in the work session documents uploaded to the website. Yeah, so if you have any other questions, let me know, and I can try to answer them, like, one-offs, but that's really the biggest note that I wanted to make. But I'm sure there will be, beyond that, there will potentially be some other discussions still before we vote on the budget tomorrow. But like I said, it is just our first reading and first vote. There will be a second reading and final vote at our June 4th meeting. All right, item number 4, we are going to be talking about approving an agreement with a first arriving, and this is for our fire department. Basically, it's a hardware system and software that helps when our firefighters get a call. It helps them map the route, the quickest route to that location. And so there's a one-time upfront cost of $2,348, and then recurring expense of $1,598 a year. So that's pretty reasonable, I think, to help our firefighters get to our homes and commercial buildings and other properties as fast as they can. All right. Item number 5 is an authorization to dispose of surplus property. This is coming from our police department and our public works department. We have some surplus vehicles, some old police vehicles that have just, lived their life, and some seized vehicles from arrests that were just never picked up or claimed, some old public works machines, vehicles, and equipment, and other stuff like that. There's a list that's actually included with the resolution. If you want to read through every one of those, it will either be auctioned off on Gov Deals or Compass auctions, and those are open to the public. So if you're looking for any of the things in this list, you can bid on it just like anyone else can. And then when that money comes in, some of it depends on if it was related to a drug arrest. It will go back into our drug fund, but the rest goes back into like our operating budget. And then number 6 is we're going to talk about which we'll do because we do it every year and we have to, is approving the fiscal year 24 audit contract with Johnson Murphy and Wright. They've been doing our audits. Honestly, I think they kind of do local municipal audits for most cities here in Hamilton County, but we've worked with them for a long time. It's $44,750, and then there's a potential additional fee that we might have to pay of $6,600 if there's a single audit required for grant funding, because that has to be audited in a different way. So it may potentially be as much as $51,000, but we have to have an audit, so it has to get done. Item number 7 is approving a contract with Bolt Builders, LLC, in the amount of $155,962 to construct an, it's not outdoor, I don't know how to say this, a bathroom facility outside of the community center. It's not like an outhouse. It's a functioning, plumbed, bathroom facility, unisex bathroom facility, and $24,000 of that $155 is covered through grant funds that we got from the Red Bank and Saudi Daisy Charitable Foundation. Actually, they gave us those funds last year, but we've only just now been able to get bids. So very excited about that, because right now when you go to play at the playground, or we have students who come up and sit and do homework or whatever after school, we don't have a restroom facility that they can access. There's only a bathroom inside the community center, and unless there's an event going on, a public event going on, it's not accessible. So very excited about this, and it is very costly. So thankful for the Red Bank Saudi Daisy Charitable Foundation for helping us to offset some of those costs. And yes, that's correct. So surplus auctions might be happening at Compass now instead of Gov Deals, but the resolution we have says it could happen at either one of those. So it's just whichever one works out the best with our department. They'll work with either one of those. I don't honestly know how they make that decision, but we have the option to use either one of those auction companies. So item number 8 is approval of a contract with Patriot Concrete in the amount of $62,496 for sidewalks at the Stringers Ridge Connector Trail. So if you read that just on the face of it, you're like, oh, sidewalks down the connector trail, that's like a nature trail connecting to Stringers Ridge. That's so weird. Well, that's not actually what the sidewalk is. It is to connect from White Oak Park, where the sidewalk ends inside of the gate, and down out to the White Oak Connector Trail. So it will all be connected and help pedestrians get through there safer. And there's also a pedestrian crosswalk area that's going to be in there somewhere. Anyway, that's also very exciting because if you've ever had to park at White Oak Park to go down into the connector trail, the sidewalk just ends and you're just kind of like meandering on the side of the road. And it feels a little unsafe. So this is very exciting. And I forgot to mention, and this is something I've been trying to mention to everybody, every time I do one of these, is that every single one of the items that I have talked about right now that's an expenditure was budgeted for this year out of our general fund, except for the next item, which was budgeted out of our State Street Aid Fund. And that's the last item. So that is the authorization of an expenditure to EPB for lighting maintenance. Basically, there was a deal with TDOT between the City of Red Bank and TDOT several years ago to manage the lights at the 27 interchanges at Signal Mountain Road and Morrison Springs Road, and they had to be maintained back in October, December, and EPB for some reason only just now sent us the bill in May. So we have to pay for that, but that's something that we agreed to with TDOT several years ago. So that's going to be just under $30,000. But like I said, that's coming from our State Street Aid Fund, and it was also budgeted. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that was understood. Everything was budgeted for, and it's coming out accordingly. So that's it. Great times, easy times, guys. Budget season, so exciting. Lots of fun things happening. Hi Julian. Yeah, so first budget vote tomorrow. If you want to hear that discussion, like I said, I'm going to talk about that clarification of that number for our projected use of fund balance for this year. And then we'll probably have some other discussion, like I said, of some other items that have been included in the budget. I think there's some, further thoughts or comments that we have not been fully able to have discussion about in our meeting yet. So that will happen tomorrow. We'll talk about some of this at the work session, but we'll have the comments from the public during the regular meeting too before we actually vote on the ordinance. So, and that's it. All right. Thank you all for joining me. Be caffeinated. I didn't actually intend to wear this. I didn't know that they were having their soft opening of their new Rossville location. So just very exciting for Be Caffeinated. Way to go, guys. Yeah, anyway, that's it. All I got. And I will see you tomorrow at the meeting at 5. Good night.